You may be familiar with the Industrial Pretreatment Program staff members for the City of Dayton, but let me take a moment to introduce the members of the team. The newest member is Alex Early. He's been with the city's Division of Water Reclamation's Industrial Pretreatment Program staff since December 2023. He holds a Class 3 wastewater treatment plant operator's license and has vast experience in wastewater plant operations. He joins me, Inez Pryor, as one of 2 industrial pretreatment coordinators for the city. Other members of our team include Mark Hurlbert, Bill Haynes, and Phil Boyd as the industrial monitoring team. Chris Clark is the division manager for the City of Dayton's Division Water Reclamation, and Mike Powell is the director for the city's Department of Water. I'll just get right into it. We'll get started with 40 CFR 403 regulatory updates that have or will take place for the program and may have impact on your facilities. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, are a topic of great interest in terms of regulatory requirements, both industrial users and wastewater treatment plant facilities. What I'm going to be covering are what PFAS compounds are, a brief regulatory history for PFAS, including the PFAS Strategic Roadmap, the Effluent Guidelines Plan 15, current final rules for PFAS, state studies for PFAS, analytical methodologies for PFAS, and any updates for industrial users due to any regulatory changes. So, what are per and polyfluoroalkyl substances? These substances are known as PFAS for short. They're synthetic chemicals that contain carbon, fluorine, and fluorine bonds. The most well-known PFAS compounds are PFOA and PFOS. That perfluoro, I'm going to probably butcher this, but perfluorooctanoic acid and perfluorooctanoic. I can't say it. Octanosulfonic acid. Oh, I butchered that. But anyway, they're used for their water, oil, and stain-resistant properties and do not break down easily in the environment. Because of these properties and the fact that they can accumulate over time, they've been dubbed forever chemicals. PFAS can end up in wastewater primarily from upstream sources such as industrial discharges and domestic sources. Now, for a brief overview of the regulatory history for PFAS, including the EPA Strategic Roadmap, the Effluent Guidelines Program 15, rulemaking, both current and updates, related actions, and federal studies. The PFAS Strategic Roadmap, the EPA's commitments to action from 2021 through 2024, was developed by the EPA Council on PFAS, which was established in 2011. The purpose was to have a comprehensive approach to addressing PFAS contamination and setting specific actions and timelines. Effluent Guidelines Program Plan 15 is a component of the broader PFAS Strategic Roadmap. Plan 15 focuses on evaluating the extent and nature of PFAS discharges, includes new rulemaking and studies to develop technology pollution limits. Some key updates and notifications for rulings for Plan 15. Updates for final rulings. The EPA has proposed a rule to revise the technology-based effluent limitations guidelines and standards for the meat and poultry products, 40 CFR 432. The rule would have more stringent effluent limitations for nitrogen, new limitations for phosphorus, new pretreatment standards for oil and grease, total suspended solids, and chemical oxygen demand. Recent rulemaking updates for effluent guidelines and standards Plan 15. The EPA has determined that revisions to the effluent guidelines and standards for landfills category are warranted. This regulation, 40 CFR 445, covers discharges of landfill, landfill. Okay, the regulation covers discharges of landfill wastewater directly to surface waters. It does not apply to captive landfills at industrial facilities, as they are already regulated by an effluent guideline or pretreatment standard. Plan 15 studies include the textile mills category, or 40 CFR Part 410. Will expand to gather information on the use and treatment of PFAS in the industry and associated PFAS discharges. The EPA will conduct a detailed study of pollutant discharges falling under the concentrated animal feeding operations, or 40 CFR Part 412. Also, the EPA will be conducting a study called the POTW Influent PFAS Study, in which they're collecting nationwide data on industrial discharges of PFAS to publicly owned treatment works, or POTWs. The purpose of that study will be to verify sources of PFAS wastewater and help POTWs assess the need for control measures at the source. The Influence study is requiring approximately 400 POTWs with the highest daily flow rates to complete a mandatory questionnaire. This is to gather wastewater plant specific information for the plant and industrial users discharging to the plant and wastewater practices of the POTW. Using this information, approximately 200 to 300 POTWs will be chosen from that larger list, larger grouping. They'll be used to, they'll be chosen to collect grab samples, domestic wastewater influent, POTW influent, POTW effluent, and up to 10 industrial users wastewater discharging to the POTW. So the samples would be analyzed for both PFAS and AOF. More information on these types of analyses will be presented later in this presentation. The study is scheduled to take place starting in late 2024 through early 2025. Also, Plan 15 is not pursuing further regulatory action for the Category 40 CFR Part 469 electrical and electronic components, but will continue monitoring for PFAS discharge data through the aforementioned POTW influence study. The pulp, paper, and paper board category, 40 CFR Part 430, and airports will continue to be monitored for PFAS use and discharges. Additional information about the EPA Effluent Guidelines Plan 15 can be found on their website, which is www.epa.gov/EG. Excuse me. Final rulings related to PFAS regulatory requirements for drinking water and hazardous waste sites. The PFAS maximum contaminant levels, or MCL, on April 10th, 2024, US EPA announced the final maximum contaminant levels for PFAS in drinking water. The enforceable MCLs are set at 4 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS individually. The rule sets the MCLs at 10 parts per trillion for PFNA, PFHXS, and Gen X, or HFPO-DA individually. In terms of PFAS CERCLA final rule, the EPA's final rule on PFAS under CERCLA announced on April 19th that they designated PFOA and PFOS as hazardous substances. And the reportable quantity of releases for PFOA and PFOS is set at 1 pound within a 24-hour period. The EPA released the final version of the EPA method 1633 on January 31st, 2024. The method is designed for analyzing up to 40 PFAS substances in various environmental matrices, including aqueous, solids, biosolids, and tissue samples. Additionally, the EPA plans to propose a new methods update rule 22 in late 2024, which includes new parameters and methods, including that method EPA method 1633. The method's not yet promulgated and 40 CFR Part 136, but expected to be promulgated within the next upcoming months. EPA method 1621, the adsorbable fluorine method mentioned earlier. It's a screening method to estimate the concentration of organofluorine compounds from PFAS and non-PFAS fluorinated compounds such as pesticides and pharmaceuticals. It's not been proposed nor promulgated in part on CFR 40 CFR Part 4 136, and it's not required for use in the NPDES program. Switching to PFAS regulatory updates on the state level and local level, there's some items of note. The Ohio EPA conducted a POTW influence study which focused on collecting effluent wastewater samples on industrial discharge contributors to the POTW. The purpose of the study was to examine specific industrial categories who discharged to the City of Dayton's wastewater treatment plant, and the information was used to characterize wastewater types and concentrations of PFAS discharged in industrial wastewaters, and to assess the availability and feasibility of control practices and treatment technologies capable of reducing or eliminating PFAS in wastewater discharges. Facilities that had wastewater discharges which were considered potential contributors were identified in late 2023 or early 2024. Sample collection of their effluent waste streams entering the sanitary sewer was conducted by CT Consultants, Inc. during the month of February 2024. The sampling and analyses were completed by late February 2024. Analytical results for all of those who are participated or whose waste streams were sampled should have been received by those industries in April of this year. If you have any questions concerning the study, please contact the Ohio EPA at the Ohio EPA Southwest Office District, and the phone number is listed on the presentation. This time, there have been no updates to the city's NPDES permit, nor any changes to the individual permits for compliance monitoring for PFAS compounds using either EPA method 1633 nor EPA method 1621. For more information on regulatory changes affecting your industries, as we get more information, we will keep you informed and updated for any regulatory changes. Now to switch gears and focus on the city's industrial pretreatment programs updates. Updates will include the most recent local limits revision, sewer use ordinance changes, the status of electronic data submittal to the city, and answers to general industrial pretreatment program issues. Local limits revision. The local limits for the City of Dayton's POTW were revised with an effective date of October 1st, 2023. What this means is that starting on that date, no person shall discharge or cause to be discharged any wastewater facilities wastewaters with concentrations that exceed the current local limits. The local limits are specific pollutant discharge limits to address the unique needs and concerns for the facility, the collection system, receiving water, and sludge disposal practices for the city. The limits are designed to protect the our infrastructure, ensure the safety of workers, and prevent pollutants from interfering with treatment processes or harming the environment. All industries should have received an updated permit with the new limits listed. Please note that any industries that are classified as categorical industrial users may have a numeric limit that differs from that listed on this table. For those industries, it's just a reminder that pollutants which have both categorical and local limits, the most stringent of those two limits was applied to their permit. If you have any questions about the required limits on your permit, please don't hesitate to contact your designated industrial pretreatment coordinator, or just call the office and one of the two of us can answer your questions. The sewer use ordinance. The city will be revising its sewer use ordinance. Periodic updates to the sewer use ordinance is necessary to align with the most current federal and state laws. Also, incorporating new technologies and best practices are needed to be added to improve the effectiveness of this industrial pretreatment program. Some expected changes will include notification procedures to the city for slug discharges and potential slug discharges, modifications for regulatory language since our last update, and electronic data submittal language inclusion. This is not anticipated to be completed prior to 2025. Switching gears to electronic reporting for industries, we're finally moving closer toward electronic data submittal of reports to our program. During the last pretreatment advisory group meeting last year, we mentioned electronic data submittal of required reports to our program. We're now in the process of updating the city's pretreatment information system software to achieve this goal. We still need to make some updates to our sewer use ordinance and get federal and state EPA approvals. The change is anticipated to become available to permitted industries sometime in the next year. So stay tuned. Switching gears again, just wanted to talk about some common topics and questions for our program, things that have come up. From time to time, we have some questions concerning just various aspects of our requirements for the program. They include general monitoring requirements for significant industrial users, any reduced monitoring requirements, TTO monitoring requirements, and the TOMP plan, how they're related, semi-annual monitoring requirements, and notification to the city for any facility changes. Starting off with general monitoring and sampling requirements, just a reminder to be sure to collect samples by the procedure that's listed in your permit. For example, time proportional composite sampling should not be used as a, you cannot substitute one for the other without prior approval, but generally that's not, they should not be mixed up or replaced with the other. Secondly, analyses to be submitted for compliance of your permit must be done by a 40 CFR 136 approved method. Please verify that analyses required by your permit is being conducted by your contract laboratory using these approved methods. Be sure to report proper units for both your analytical result, the concentration, and the method detection limit. Concentration units should be reported in milligrams per liter. A lot of contract laboratories, they report in micrograms per liter or nanograms per liter for mercury specifically. And the form states that everything must be stated or must be listed in milligrams per liter. So just be sure to look out for that, or to have your contract laboratory report and in this unit, or make the conversion if that change is not made on their lab report. Also related to method detection levels, the method detection level is required to be reported. Don't report the reporting limit, as they are not the same. Please contact your contract laboratory to verify that it's being reported on the report that you receive from them. For those industries that have flow measurement requirements, be sure that flow information is reported in gallons per day, and make sure that both the maximum daily flow and the average daily flow is tracked and recorded. A logbook or equivalent for maintaining flow values will ensure that this data is available for your record and for easy calculation when you submit that information on your periodic report on continued compliance. For authorized representative requirements, please notify the industrial pretreatment office prior to making any changes to your authorized representative. A letter of the change can be sent to us, and it must be received on file prior to the acceptance of any signed reports by the new personnel. Also, the city will have to make necessary changes to the industrial, your industry's fact sheet to show the most recent personnel changes, fact sheet, and associated with your most current permit. For reduced monitoring, that's another topic that's asked about quite frequently. On your permits, there's a requirement that self-monitoring will occur on a monthly basis with the option of being eligible for quarterly monitoring if your compliance history is acceptable. This includes having no violations within the past 12-month period. A written request must be submitted to our office prior, so we can look to verify that that there's not been any violations or any issues. And then if the facility is eligible, then the industry will be sent a letter stating that they fall under the quarterly monitoring requirements, and they'll remain effective from the start date onward. However, if there's a violation of any kind, be it numeric, report, or reporting, the industrial user must return to monthly monitoring for 12 consecutive months. This comes up a lot as well, total toxic organics reporting and the TOMP requirements. For those categorical industrial users that are required to analyze for total toxic organics, a toxic organic management plan or TOMP may be developed. If the TOMP is developed and accepted, the user may sign a certification statement as part of its self-monitoring report. So every time you sign off on your PRCCs, you can sign off that certification, the TTO certification statement. If your facility has submitted a TOMP to the city within a 5-year period, you can sign the TTO certification statement, as I said before, in lieu of monitoring for TTOs. You're not required to analyze for TTOs as long as the TOMP remains in effect and there's no changes to processes or chemicals. The TOMP is required to be resubmitted every 5 years along with the permit application, or if there's any changes to your facility or any changes to processes rather. Please note that if you have an approved TOMP, you are only required to sign the TTO certification statement on your PRCC. You don't have to analyze for TTO as long as there not been any changes to chemicals, processes, or within that five-year window of approval. Semi-annual monitoring. Semi-annual monitoring is required to be conducted every October and April of a calendar year. So that's spelled out on each of the permits as well. So I know this month and I think April as well, that they require that if you have semi-annual monitoring requirements, then I can hardly hear. I heard someone softly talking. So thank you very much and have a good day.